Hi everybody, it's Joyce Lick here from Black Hair Compass, and I wanted to come to you guys with a quick video. This was not planned, I did not outline it, I didn't really give too much thought. I just was like, let me come on here and make a video about this. So for those of you who don't know, it was recently deemed legal to discriminate in the workplace based on whether a person has dreadlocks or not, locks or not, depending on what terminology you use. And I know amongst my circle of peers who are largely African American, that kind of like was filling my my social media, and I had a friend of mine reach out directly and ask me what my thoughts were. So if you didn't know about that, and you wanted to kind of get caught up on what's going on, I will leave a link in the description box, and that'll kind of give you the backstory and what the ruling was, so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I just wanted to start out by saying, when I first heard that it had been legalized to discriminate in the workplace against people with locks, it kind of made me a little bit nervous because for those of you who don't know, I am currently a stay-at-home mom, and I have all the intentions of returning to the workforce in due time. So my first thought was, okay, I have locks now, so how is that going to impact me when trying to get back into work. And at first I was a little bit sad, even a little bit depressed, because well, not depressed, but I was sad because I was like looking beyond just the surface. Like, if you think about how oppression works, it's never blatant. Like, well, sometimes it can be blatant, but it never starts out that way. It starts out with small things here and there, restricting liberties here and there, and over time you're left with one option, which is to assimilate, right? Or to submit yourself to whatever authoritative body exists. And in this case, it can feel a lot like this is kind of like the first steps of trying to infringe on some of the liberties of those of us with Afro-textured hair, because while locks can be worn by anyone, here in the United States, I think it's safe to say that the majority of people who wear locks are Black people. So while this law will affect anyone with dreadlocks, it will disproportionately affect people of African descent and who have Afro-textured hair. So it can feel, at first it feels kind of like a roundabout route of oppression, especially since this is like in the midst of, the natural hair boom in the United States, where many Black people, Black women, and men too, are choosing to not chemically straighten their hair, aka relax their hair, and they're embracing their natural hair. And there are many people who choose to wear their hair out in its afro state, and then there are many who opt to lock their natural hair. They choose to wear their natural hair in locks. So to then legalize discrimination against people with locks can kind of feel like a counteract, like a counter move to kind of like the cultural shift that's happening. So it can, at first, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But after I had some time to think about it and talk to some other people, my sentiments on it kind of changed. And not to say that I'm in alignment with it or that I think it's appropriate, because I totally don't. But the point is that just because they made it legal to discriminate based on locks doesn't mean that every single company is just going to go fire everyone with locks. Because ultimately, there are lots of companies that will not hire you because you have locks. The only difference is that before they couldn't say that, and now they can. So it's not a matter of stopping discrimination from happening. It's just about, are they being honest about it? Because if someone doesn't want to hire you because you have locks, they probably just won't hire you, and they'll give you some other reason as to why they chose to go with another candidate. So you see what I'm saying? So I don't think it's necessarily putting an additional restriction. It's just bringing things that are being done behind the scenes to the forefront. But I don't think it's going to make companies start discriminating against people with locks. If they were already discriminating, they will continue to discriminate. If they were choosing not to discriminate, I think they will continue to choose not to discriminate. Does that make sense? But like I said, it's a short video. I didn't have too much to say, but I did kind of want to throw it out there and get some dialogue. I've watched a couple other people's videos on the topics, and I want to know, what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about the discrimination of locs being legalized? And this is another thing, kind of like piggybacking off of it, that same friend that reached out to me and asked me what my thoughts were on the legalization of discrimination against locs was also the same person to send me an article discussing Marc and the cultural appropriation that happened on the runway with locs. And then so everyone was like pouring in criticism saying cultural appropriation, and he denied it. And he kind of mocked people who were telling him that he was culturally appropriating. And then not even days later, we have an official ruling telling people in the United States that you can discriminate against those with locs. And I'm like, it's just interesting because the idea with cultural appropriation is that if it's on a white body, it is acceptable. If it's on a black body, then it is not acceptable. And I think that we can totally see that here. In high fashion, locs on white women, totally beautiful, totally accepted, totally celebrated. In real life, in the workplace, we have locs banned, and now companies have a legal standing on which to do it. And like I mentioned earlier, this ruling will affect everyone with locs, but the fact remains is that the majority of loc wearers in the United States are African Americans, so it's going to disproportionately affect black people. So do you see how that like disparity plays out in real life? So, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Tell me guys, what are your thoughts on the legalization of discriminating against locs in the workplace and having it be something that you can be denied employment for? But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.